I think after the third, I said to Dricus, okay, we are 3 down now. Do you want to take him down? And he said to me, coach, he's too wet.
When the dust settled after UFC 319, one of the biggest talking points wasn't just Khamzat Chimaev's win over Dricus du Plessis. It was the way the fight was handled by the referee. Coach Morne Visser didn't mince words. He openly questioned why the officials allowed Chimaev to sit in dominant positions for so long without real damage being done. According to Visser, Chimaev threw hundreds of strikes, but only a tiny fraction was significant. Most of it was what he called smothering control. The real frustration came from how little urgency the referee showed. In Visser's mind, there should have been warnings, followed by stand-ups whenever the action stalled.
You can't think that you're gonna beat my guy coming with one thing, and that's wrestling. That guy's one-dimensional. You've seen his stand-up. I won't even give him a pro license for his stand-up. He doesn't present any problem for us.
Instead, round after round, the fight was left on the ground. But Chimaev's style thrives. And it wasn't just the corner that felt this way. The crowd agreed. When du Plessis walked into the arena, fans booed him. But within minutes, those same fans were booing Chimaev for simply holding position and refusing to let the fight breathe. For Visser, it wasn't just about losing. It was about the way the fight unfolded. A contest that could have been a showcase for both men instead became, in his words, smothered with boringness. Once you move past the officiating, the fight itself paints a clear picture. Chimaev came in with one game plan: get Dricus down, hold him there, and never let him breathe. And he executed it with suffocating precision. The numbers are staggering. Over 500 strikes thrown by Chimaev, but only about 30 of them were considered significant.
For the casuals, this isn't going to be like a fun fight to watch, but for people who actually do MMA and are old school fans, they'll appreciate it because, well, I appreciate it because this is the levels of the game, rather than Khamzat's grappling levels high, very high. As wrestling and as MMA wrestling's brilliant, lad.
That's the definition of blanket control. Small, peppering shots. Just enough activity to keep the referee from standing them up. Coach Morne admitted his team shares part of the blame. He called the fight boring on both sides. But he also pointed out the reality. Every time Dricus had even a brief moment on the feet, he landed clean and hard. At one point, he even wobbled Chimaev, forcing Khamzat to immediately dive for a takedown. But here's the catch. Chimaev wasn't looking for a finish. He wasn't hunting submissions or risking big shots. He was playing a control game, neutralizing Dricus's power and dragging the fight into his world. And while it wasn't pretty, it worked. That's why Visser described it as 500 beastings. None of them deadly on their own, but enough to win round after round and enough to leave Dricus stuck under a wet blanket he couldn't shake off.
You were extremely dominant in there. You landed the most total strikes ever in a UFC fight, over 500. Were you surprised you couldn't get him out of there over the course of the 5 rounds?
No, just was working on him, so I had some cool time on that there. So just spoke with him, spoke with his coach.
Between rounds, the corner conversations revealed just how unusual this fight was. After the first round, Morne Visser checked in with Dricus. Was he tired? Were his arms burned out from defending constant wrestling? Surprisingly, the answer was no. Dricus actually laughed in the corner and told his coach he felt fine. To him, this was just Khamzat showing his very best. And he believed that pace couldn't last 5 full rounds. But by the 3rd round, reality set in. Visser urged Dricus to consider trying a takedown of his own, to flip the script. That's when Dricus gave a brutally honest answer. Coach, he's too wet, too slippery. The sweat, the pace, the sheer pressure, every attempt to reverse or counter just slipped away.
Did you guys hear what he just said? He said in between the 3rd and 4th round, he asked Dricus du Plessis, do we want to take him down? After getting 10-8 3 straight rounds in the grappling, having nothing to offer, being crucifixed over and over and over again.
And while they had prepared for wrestling-heavy scenarios, this level of control was something new. It was a turning point. The corner knew they were 3 rounds down, but they also believed one explosive moment could change everything. Visser even said after the fight that if they had just 1 more minute, things might have been very different. For Visser, One of the most overlooked details was that all the real danger in terms of submissions came from Dricus, not Chimaev. While Khamzat stayed locked on top, his goal wasn't to advance or finish. It was pure positional dominance. He wasn't threatening chokes, arm bars, or anything that could actually end the fight.
I don't see anyone preparing properly for Hamza. They are bringing wrestlers to train them to defend takedowns and all that, but Hamza doesn't do the normal stuff. Hamza doesn't do wrestling. He does MMA wrestling. It's different. You need to understand his system, what he wants next. You need to understand this first, and then you start to prepare for him.
Dricus, on the other hand, kept looking for openings, guillotines, reversals, small windows to snatch a limb or a neck. Visser was clear. Every submission attempt in that fight came from their side, and a few of them in his eyes were almost there. The problem? They didn't have the time or space to work. Every attempt was smothered by Chimaev's control. It was like trying to start a fire under a wet blanket. Visser pointed out that in the brief moments where the fight stayed standing, Dricus looked sharper. He landed clean shots and even visibly rocked Chimaev. But those opportunities were so short-lived that they never truly shifted the momentum. In his eyes, the fight was less about being beaten and more about being held.
That guy is strong, couldn't finish. Respect that guy. The only champion who was saying my name. This guy has big heart. Real lion, African real lion. Thank you, brother.
Well, Khamzat, enjoy this moment. Congratulations, sir. You're the new middleweight champion of the world.
Thank you very much.
And that, he said, is exactly what they'll need to solve before stepping back into the octagon with Khamzat again. Let us know in the comments what you guys think. In the hours after UFC 319, plenty of fans and media voices called for an immediate rematch. But Coach Morne shut that talk down instantly. His reasoning was simple. You don't deserve a rematch after being dominated in one area of the fight. If it had been razor close, maybe. But with Khamzat smothering round after round, Morne said it just wouldn't make sense. Instead, he wants to go back, rebuild, and come prepared for the specific problem that beat them.
The lead up to this fight, I said, I bet the main event is the fight of the night. Didn't see that coming, but not shocked either. I mean, you go in and dominate the way that he dominated. If you can do it the first round, more than likely going to do it the second and throughout the rest of the fight.
Chimaev's suffocating style of wrestling. They had trained for it, yes, but not at the level Khamzat brought inside the cage. Visser even admitted that the one position they didn't prepare for, the crucifix, ended up being a key factor. Chimaev's ability to trap an arm and rain down endless small shots wasn't devastating, but it was enough to keep the fight grounded and rack up points. The takeaway, a rematch now would just be history repeating itself. The team needs time, the right training partners, and a refined game plan to ensure that the next time they face Chimaev, it's not about surviving the ground, it's about beating him there. What makes this loss sting even more for Team du Plessis is that they did put in the work. Visser explained that they brought in top-level wrestlers from around the world, Russians, French grapplers, even homegrown talent from their gym. The entire camp was designed around one reality. Khamzat was going to wrestle. They drilled worst-case scenarios every single day. Du Plessis would start practice rounds in fully locked-in submissions. Rear naked chokes, guillotines, even wall positions. And he had to fight his way out within 30 seconds. And in the gym, he always did. But here's where the difference showed. Chimaev's pressure wasn't like anything they'd seen before. It wasn't about submission. It wasn't even about big damage. It was about staying glued to Dricus, round after round, never giving him the space to escape or reset. Visser described it as fighting under a blanket. You can't get off. And the reality is, no matter how many drills they ran, nobody in camp could replicate that kind of suffocating control. For him, the lesson is clear. They don't just need wrestlers, they need specialists who can hold positions for minutes at a time, forcing Dricus to fight through layer after layer before escaping. That, he says, is the only way to prepare for the kind of pressure Khamzat brings.
Your best corner interaction is, do we want to take him down, Drew? You can't take him down. He's too damn good. His wrestling is too good.
So where does Team du Plessis go from here? According to Visser, the roadmap is already clear. First, Dricus gets a short break, maybe a week, 2 at most. After that, the rebuild begins. Visser says they don't need to overhaul the whole game. They don't need more power, more conditioning, or even sharper striking. What they need is 12 to 16 weeks laser-focused on one thing, breaking free from suffocating wrestling control. Once that problem is solved, they'll roll directly into a full fight camp. The target? Early next year. Visser was blunt. He doesn't want tune-up fights, he doesn't want stay-dizzy bouts. The only goal is getting back to Chimaev and taking the belt. In his own words, ranked fighters are for other guys, not for us. We want the belt back. That single-minded focus is what drives the team forward. They know what went wrong. They know how to fix it. And they're not interested in wasting time fighting anyone else until they've proven they can solve the Chimaev puzzle. Of course, the middleweight division won't stand still while Team du Plessis rebuilds. And Visser knows it. Right now, all eyes are on Khamzat Chimaev, potentially fighting Anthony Hernandez in Abu Dhabi. Visser admitted Hernandez looks like the biggest threat in the division at this moment. His pace, his grappling, and his ability to push forward could create real problems for Chimaev. Then there's RDR, Imavov, and Marc-Andre Barrios, names floating around the contender mix. Visser expects those fighters to shake up the rankings while they regroup. But here's the key. None of that changes their plan. Whether Chimaev keeps the belt or Hernandez snatches it away, Team du Plessis wants back and against whoever is holding gold. Still, Visser can't help but point out the irony. When Dricus walked into the cage at UFC 319, the fans booed him. Minutes later, they were booing Chimaev for stalling. In his mind, that's proof. The division needs real, complete fighters who can mix it up everywhere.
Middle of the fight, was happy.
What kind of things were you saying?
I said, good job, work harder, guys.
Not just smother opponents on the ground. And that's what he believes du Plessis will bring back to the octagon. The more complete version, the more dangerous version, and one that's already planning his road back to the title. If there's one thing Morne Visser made clear, it's that both he and Dricus du Plessis are terrible losers. And in their world, that's not a weakness, it's fuel. Visser said he doesn't even want fighters in his gym who shrug off losses, with cliches like, it happens, you just move on. For him, losing cuts deep. It lingers. It eats at you until you fix it. And Dricus is built the exact same way. That's why, instead of sulking, they're already planning. Visser admitted he barely slept after UFC 319, not from despair, but from excitement. Excitement about fixing the problem, about chasing the belt again, and about proving that du Plessis can beat the man who just dominated him. In his words, we became world champion with what we had. We lost the belt because of what we didn't have. Now we're gonna fix it, and then we'll be back. It's the mindset of a team that refuses to settle. Not just a comeback story, but a declaration. They're coming for the belt again, and this time, they believe nothing will stop them. So here's the question. Fight fans, do you buy it? Can Dricus du Plessis fix the holes, come back stronger, and take his belt back from Khamzat Chimaev? Or has Chimaev's blanket wrestling already exposed a gap too big to close? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear from you. Do you think Anthony Hernandez or anyone else in the division can dethrone Chimaev before Dricus gets his rematch? Or is this story destined to end with du Plessis shocking the world all over again? If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's next. We'll keep you updated with all the latest fallout from UFC 319 and beyond. Because one thing's for sure, the middleweight division just got a whole lot more interesting. Thanks for watching. See you in the next round.